So Hare Krishna everybody, this is Krishna Dasa. Welcome. So today we're going to start chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita. So before we start, let me say the prayer to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalake Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So let me play these Shlokas. Today we're going to cover...
Can I do the Guru prayer, Prabhuji?
Oh, sure. We don't do it in this session, but if you are here, feel free. Go ahead.
Thank you. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So today we are going to do the introduction and verses 1 to 5. So I think today Deepaji is going to read the translation. So I will start playing the shlokas.
Atha Chaturthodhyayah Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yogah Shri Bhagavanuvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanahamavyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manu Ikshvaku Bravit Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajashrayo Viduhu Sakale Neha Mahata Yogo Nashtah Parantapa Sa Evayam Mayatedhya Yogah Proktah Puratanaha Bhakto Sime Sakha Cheti Rahasyam Hyetaduttamam Arjuna Uvacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vivasvatah Kathametad Vijaniyam Tvamado Proktavaniti Shri Bhagavanuvacha Bahuni Me Vyatitani Janmani Tavacharjuna Tanyaham Veda Sarvani Natvam Vedha Parantapa.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Deepaji.
Hare Krishna. Chapter 4, verses 4.1. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. 4.2. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplined succession, and the saintly kings understood it that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost. 4.3. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of the science. 4.4. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivasvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? 4.5. The personality of Godhead said, many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So welcome. So good start. So let me give an introduction to the 4th chapter. So, see, we spoke about Sanatana Dharma. So we are all followers of Sanatana Dharma. Arjuna was a follower of Sanatana Dharma. So was Bhishma and all of them. So one of the key aspects of followers of Sanatana Dharma is that we cherish the timeless wisdom of ancient scriptures, especially the Vedas. We have a lot of respect for it and we cherish our scriptures. So no matter how great a concept is, in spirituality at least, we look at it with a bit of skepticism unless it has some reference to our scriptures. See what I mean? So that is how usually our people have been. That anything you tell them in spirituality, there has to be some reference made to the Vedic knowledge, only then they find it acceptable as authentic. No? So in the earlier chapter, Shri Krishna presented a very transformative interpretation of Karma Yoga. And he provided very unique insights. And if you remember, initially that puzzled Arjuna, because Arjuna was not able to quickly grasp that. He thought there were some contradictions. He couldn't really understand what Krishna was saying because Arjuna was heavily invested in Vedanta. He had a lot of wisdom that he had studied from Vedanta. So he was looking for some kind of reassurance that whatever Krishna was saying, is it aligning with what I already have learned? And the Vedas are supposed to be the supreme knowledge, and is there any kind of alignment? That is what was going on in Arjuna's mind. So in this chapter, Krishna is making every effort to assure Arjuna. So Krishna, his position now as the divine creator, and he is the author of the Vedas. And he is explaining to Arjuna, he is telling him that whatever I am telling you is already contained in the Vedas. It's not something brand new. That is the purpose why Krishna is saying that to Arjuna. And Krishna is highlighting the role of Jnana Yoga as a guiding force to understand and correctly practice Karma Yoga. So I was saying that Krishna highlights how Jnana Yoga plays a crucial role in helping us correctly practice Karma Yoga. So he will bring out the very beautiful union of these two. And one more thing to understand is, see, ordinary education, materialistic education, it can be offered by any teacher. And it can be absorbed by any student. Because why? Because for material knowledge, the teacher is just a conduit for information. So, material knowledge, when somebody is teaching you, the teacher is pretty much playing the role of somebody who has information. That is pretty much it. Whereas, when it comes to spiritual knowledge, you require an emotional connect with the Guru. That's very important because that is how the transmission of spiritual knowledge happens. That is how the assimilation happens of spiritual knowledge. It is extremely important. So, my kids, I have 2 sons, and of course they were young at one point in time. And my first son is Ayush. So when he was the only child for the first few years, so he used to always come to me for everything. Even simple things like how to open the wrapper of a chocolate. He wants to come and ask me, Appa, how is this done? How is that done? And he has a million questions. How is this? How is that? And I used to answer all of that. And then Manas came. I still remember one day when everything changed, the world changed for me, is my boys were standing and the younger one was asking me something, Appa, how this is done. And the older one said, Arey, why you are asking, Appa? I will Google and show you the answer. Yeah, and I'm like, wow. So now Google has become, he's replaced me. So in other words, that is why a lot of people call Google as Google Guru. It is true. Today, for material knowledge, almost everything that we want to know materially, you can just Google it. See, that is the whole concept. But you cannot do that for spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge requires that ambience. It requires that emotional connect. It requires that opening of your heart. So many things have to happen. That is why in spiritual knowledge, the Guru-Shishya relationship is so celebrated. Now, why we are talking about that here is Arjuna considers Krishna to be a friend, a dear friend, and Krishna also considers Arjuna to be a friend. But sometimes Arjuna forgets the divinity of Krishna. Sometimes Arjuna forgets the role that Krishna plays as a guru, a Jagat Guru actually. So in this chapter, one of the things Krishna tries to do is he tries to awaken Arjuna's perspective. He wants to awaken Arjuna's perspective about Krishna's Guru aspect and the divinity aspect, because that is how Arjuna can soak in all that knowledge. So this chapter is going to begin by bringing the spotlight onto Jnana Yoga and how it plays a crucial role in understanding Karma Yoga. So, Krishna is sharing the profound wisdom with Arjuna to strengthen his faith. And he is encouraging Arjuna. He tells Arjuna, get rid of all these doubts in your mind. Don't have so many doubts. And Krishna is explaining, he tells Arjuna, see, whatever I am telling you, it's not something that I cooked up. It's not something that I invented newly. I am not, inventing this knowledge just to motivate you to fight the war. That is not what it is. He says, what I am telling you is a timeless science. It is a timeless, eternal yoga that I already taught to Vivasvan, the sun god, millions of years ago. And Krishna says, and then the sun god passed it on to Manu. You know who is Manu? Manu is the first human being, the father of humanity. He says, then Manu then passed it on to Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku was the first king of the solar dynasty, and he is said to have ruled the entire planet. So Krishna says, this is how the knowledge progressed. See, the sun has a very special place in our culture and religion, and the Vedas also praise the sun a lot. Some of you may have heard the Gayatri mantra and all, but if you have heard the whole thing, maybe Lakshmiji knows this. So it starts with Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. That is a very, very key part of it, and it is extremely powerful. And you will find this statement happening in many different invocations. So that shloka basically means we meditate upon the divine sun, the radiant source of life, who is worthy of worship. May he inspire our intellects. That is how we start the invocation. So, I want to talk about two ways of knowledge. Why we are talking about all of this. One is called the descending process of knowledge, and one is called the ascending process of knowledge. Now, what Krishna is explaining to Arjuna and rest of humanity, that is the descending process of knowledge, which is where somebody who is a perfect authority, an enlightened person, they are passing it down to another person who wants to learn. So, the idea is that true knowledge, the timeless knowledge, the knowledge that constitutes Sanatana Dharma, can be revealed or transmitted from a higher realm, through either a deity or through divine revelation. So that is why, in other words, we believe that that knowledge is not created in this planet. That knowledge is coming to us from a higher realm. Okay. That is why that knowledge is considered to be timeless, eternal and absolute. So we explained this way back in second chapter. We said, Sanatana Dharma, that is why it is a timeless truth. Whatever we learn in Sanatana Dharma, it is not a Yuga. There is a difference between a Sanatana Dharma and a Yuga Dharma. Yuga Dharmas come and go after every Yuga, whereas Sanatana Dharma is absolute. All the teachings that are in Sanatana Dharma, they are timeless. Whereas the ascending process of knowledge is knowledge which we create. We cook it up based on our own observation, our own study, our own intellect. The ascending process is like a bottoms-up approach. See, both ascending and descending, they are complementary, they are interconnected, because the ascending process, it enables us to explore, it enables us to ask questions, find answers and all of that. Whereas the descending process directly provides us with deep insights and spiritual truths. The only thing to keep in mind is the ascending process is error prone. Why it is error prone? Because we are using our faulty senses and faulty instruments to gather data. That is why the ascending process is time bound. It also gets outdated very quickly, because there are so many things we know that somebody said, it was accepted. 50 years, 100 years later, somebody came, corrected it. Even science for that matter. We explained the example of Galileo in the last few sessions. Even Newton for that matter. There was a time when Newtonian theory was considered to be the truth in physics. And then Einstein came and he changed everything. And he proved that Newtonian theory was not really correct. And he came and changed it. And then today there are scientists who are coming and saying what Einstein said was also not correct. So these are all ascending knowledges, which are good for some period of time, and then they get overridden when time changes, when data changes, when knowledge changes. Okay. Whereas the descending knowledge is eternal. That is why what Krishna taught, he taught 5,000 years ago to Arjuna. He says he taught this to the sun god millions of years ago. But the knowledge is still relevant. There is no part of Bhagavad Gita that we can look at and say that it is not relevant today. We cannot say, oh, this was okay 5,000 years ago, but it doesn't apply today. You cannot say like that for any part of Bhagavad Gita or the Vedas for that matter, because it is descending knowledge. I hope that makes it very clear, the ascending and descending part. And that will probably help you understand why Krishna says that I imparted this knowledge to sun god so many years ago. And then he imparted it to somebody else. Because Krishna wants Arjuna to understand that this is descending knowledge. So have faith in it. Okay. On similar lines, there is also this concept of Shruti and Smriti. This is very important in Vedanta. So Shruti means, the word Shru means here. So Shruti means the knowledge that has been revealed directly. It is descending knowledge. So some sages, some saints, they were in Samadhi or they were in deep meditative state, and this knowledge, it's a direct cosmic dump. So that is Shruti. So the Vedas, that is how they are supposed to have come to humanity. It was delivered. Okay. Whereas Smriti is that which was heard and remembered. Basically, Smriti means you look around, you try to understand what is going on, and then you try to remember it, and then you try to interpret it in your own words. Have you played, does anybody know the game called German Whisper? No? Deepali knows it? Deepali, can you tell us what is German Whisper?
You're calling it a fancy name, but it's nothing like whispering in each one's ears till it finally reaches to the person, right? That's the same game.
Yes.
As
Yes.
children we played. I mean, you say a line and then you're sitting in a row until it reaches to the last person. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. We call it some other simple Marathi name. Chinese whisper, it's Chinese whisper, not German whisper, right? Yeah.
See, that's because even this name is like come through so many people, it gets interpreted. So the idea is,
but in this particular game, when we play it, what we start saying and how we say it, by the end of the whole play, what we hear it again, there is a marked difference due to individual additions or alterations.
Exactly. That is why we are taking that example here. That is what is Smriti. Because intent, it's not about intent, it is about the human nature. Humans are very creative. So today you see something and you will tell it in a certain way to me. I will listen, and when I pass it on to Kalpana, I will add a few mirchi masala to that. And then she will pass it on to somebody, she will pass it on to... By the time it passes to 10, 15 people, it's an entirely different story. That is why Smriti is considered to be inferior to Shruti. Because Shruti means directly cosmic dump. There is no modifications, there is no interpretations. It is directly what was said. Whereas Smriti is what you remembered, and because it is based on what you remembered, it is interpreted. And the interpretation, even Bhagavad Gita for that matter, if you see, there are 1,000 interpretations, at least. And everybody takes their own liberties to modify things, twist things. And that is the reason we are having Pragmatic Gita. This entire session we are having is for that purpose. To help you all understand what is the true practical aspect of Bhagavad Gita without getting caught up in people's ideas and people's interpretations. So, Shruti, again, if I go back to the concept, Shruti is not depending on what somebody remembered. Because it is not depending on what somebody remembered, nobody thought it was necessary to even write it down. Only if, like say, Ekansh wants the world to know what he saw, So, and Ekansh wants to make sure that everybody hears his version. Then what is the first thing he will do? He will go write it down. And because he wants everybody to know. But then what happens? His student will create version 2 and say, no, this is what my teacher actually meant. And then his student will say, oh, my teacher actually meant this. And by that, this game of I meant, he meant, they meant, basically what remains is only the meant. The truth has already disappeared. Whereas Shruti, they thought it is not required because nobody is trying to prove their authenticity. Everybody knows that it is God's words. So there is no writing and there is no interpretations. That is the reason Krishna is giving this context, that what I am telling you is not Smriti, it is Shruti. It was given to the sun god, and from that time onwards it is still going on. That is still the truth. Okay. And Krishna also says that Arjuna, you are my friend as well as my devotee. See, now Krishna is being this philosopher here. And he is coaxing Arjuna slowly to get into the mindset that yes, I am your friend, that is never going to change. But for you to assimilate this knowledge, you have to get into this mindset of a student, because that is how you open your heart up. See, I'll give you a very simple example, like food. When you eat food, is it true, completely true to say that good food will give you good health? Think about it. No, some people are saying no. Okay. Why no?
Have to eat moderately. If you eat anything good over good,
okay. Correct. That is one part of it. Excellent. Moderation. Okay. Even in moderation, let us say we eat good food. Is it guaranteed that it will result in good health? No, Ekansh, no. Ekansh is from the food industry, so he can probably tell us why. Why, Ekansh?
Okay, let's take an if you are eating good, it's like if you are having protein. If you have a lot of protein in the body, excess of everything is bad. If you have excess of vitamin D, it is eventually going to harm your kidneys. Right?
Yes. Right? Exactly. So you are saying the same thing Lakshmiji said. Moderation is important. But my question is, even in moderation, let us say 5 people eat the same vitamin in moderation. Is it going to result in the same amount of positive outcome? No, Suchita, why?
No.
I can tell you
because
different.
Something.
Suchita ji, you are saying something. Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, Guruji, I think what is good for me, it may be not good for other person.
That is also another part of it. Okay. Yes, Lakshmi ji.
The thoughts. If you eat means the good.
The bhav.
And if it is a prasadam, it will do good to you because you are offering to God with that intention to do it. It will going to do.
Very nice. So many awesome points have come out here. Poonam ji, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, same thing I want to say. Whatever you're eating, eat with positive thinking. That yes, I'm eating for living. God has blessed me today. This food, this lunch, it may affect. It should do good to my body. If you eat with that thought, if you eat that thought, whatever you eat, whether dal, rice, whatever, only think that thank God that day.
Yes.
God.
Excellent.
I got my lunch.
So you see, so many excellent points have come here, you see. And I would like to add one more point. One more point is, it also depends on your digestive power. You see, generally people can say that, oh, if you drink milk, it will strengthen your bones. But then there are some people who are lactose intolerant. So that milk is not going to do them any good. So your bhava, your thought is important. Moderation is important. And your power of digestion is also important. So many factors. So it is not just the food, right? Just like that, spiritual knowledge is like that. Just because there is spiritual knowledge doesn't mean everybody is going to get spiritual evolution. There are so many parameters involved. Your bhava is important. Your mindset is important. Right? And also, your power of assimilation is important. Are you able to really grasp it? No. So that is why Krishna is now telling Arjuna that, Arjuna, I am giving this secret knowledge because of three things. First thing, you are my friend. Second thing, you are also my devotee. And the third thing, you have the power to understand. So that is why when we discussed the second chapter, there was a quote from Katha Upanishad that said, a teacher who is self-realized is rare. And the opportunity to learn from the teacher is even more rare. And by such good fortune, if that opportunity comes, then a student who can actually follow the teaching is rarest. So all of this have to happen. No? And this is the reason why Shri Krishna said in the third chapter that it is an offense to preach to those who don't have faith. Now it makes more sense. It will make more sense because at that time some people may say, why is Krishna saying don't teach if that person is not capable? Or Krishna also said don't disturb the ignorant people. You just lead the example. This is the main reason, because that person is lactose intolerant. You are going to pour milk down his throat. It's not going to do that person any good. Okay? So again, I would like to reiterate that without humility, devotion and faith, Krishna's teachings will not have the required impact. It will be like good proteins, it will be like good vitamins in a bad stomach. So that's why all of this is very, very, very important. So that is one of the reasons why even today you will come across some scholars who can talk about they will take one sloka of Bhagavad Gita and they can talk for 1 hour or more. It will be very flowery. They will be very fluent in Sanskrit and everything, but you will come out baffled. You are not coming out enlightened. Why? Because the humility aspect is lacking there. I am not talking about the teacher, I am talking about us. A lot of people who go to such seminars, we go because we think we are very intelligent and we want something very intellectually stimulating. So our intellect gets stimulated, but that was never the goal. The goal was spiritual evolution. And it's not going to happen as long as you are depending on intellect, because as long as the intellect is active, there is no humility. So Krishna will repeat that again and again and again and saying, you have to have the right bhava. Once you get that humility, when you can have humility? When you say, oh, Krishna, you accept Krishna as the Guru. Say, okay, you are Guru, you are Jagat Guru, I am a student. That is when your heart opens up. And when the heart opens up, that same milk will now give you strength rather than loose motion. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay. So now Arjuna is listening to everything, and guess what? He is Arjuna. So he asks another question. So Arjuna says, Krishna, what are you saying? You are born like now, like a few years ago. Vivasvan was born like tens of thousands of years ago. How are you saying that you instructed the science to Vivasvan? How can I believe that? I don't understand. What are you trying to say? So we should actually thank Arjuna for asking these kind of questions, because through him, the rest of humanity gets answers. So Shri Krishna is smiling, and Krishna says, both you and I have had many births, O Arjuna. You have forgotten them, but I remember all of them. That's the difference between you and me. So here Shri Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Parantapa. Parantapa means subduer of enemies. So Krishna tells Arjuna, you have defeated so many warriors. Now use your strength and intellect to defeat your own doubts and confusions. You have to defeat your own doubts. You cannot all the time be in a mindset of doubt. Otherwise, this knowledge is not going to make sense to you. Okay. So there is also this concept of individual soul and super soul. And so the idea is that the individual soul and super soul, they are qualitatively similar. They are, because we say we are a spark of the divine. So qualitatively it is similar. It is like the drop of water versus the ocean. The drop of water came from the ocean. So qualitatively they are the same. But quantitatively they are very different. The ocean is vast and unlimited, whereas the drop of water is very limited. Just like that, we have an individual soul, which is part of the super soul. So in the Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad also, there is a mention of this. We will talk about this again later in the Bhagavad Gita. The example of two birds, some of you may remember. So it comes from the Upanishad. Upanishad says that our body is like a tree. And in the tree there are two birds. One is Ishvara and one is Jiva. Ishvara is the super soul, Jiva is the individual soul. And they are both sitting in the same tree. But one tree, which is our Jiva, is busy enjoying the fruits of the tree. Don't eat all the fruits, enjoy the fruits. You know? Whereas the Ishvara, which is the super soul, also sitting on the same tree. But it is detached. That bird is not really attached to the fruit or eating the fruit and all of that. Now, what does this small bird have to do to get a glimpse of Ishvara? It just has to look at the big bird. But it has no time. It's busy running behind all those fruits. So that is what is written beautifully in the Upanishads. So there is another example given, the example given is when we sleep at night. During the sleep, we don't have an identity, correct? Because you are asleep, you don't have your consciousness is not working. But when you wake up, you get back your identity. So how does that happen? Because the connect is the super soul. The super soul is always there. So it is like the guide. The super soul, in other words, we also, if you remember, we spoke about the medical fact, how every cell in our body goes through a transformation as we grow. Every cell regenerates. Do you remember that? We discussed that earlier. In other words, if you look at like Ekansh or whoever, Ashaji or whatever you see right now in Zoom, today, the people they are, if you compare them with what they were when they were 1 year old, you will not find even a single cell which is common. Each and every cell in their body is gone. Now what they have is an entirely new set of cells. But they still call themselves Ekansh and Asha and Smita. What is that magic? How is it possible that even physically you are not the same, but you still feel you are the same? That
Ishvara inside.
Exactly. That is the other bird, which helps you maintain that continuity. So we have to know, this is what people mean when they say God is inside you. That is the truth. The truth is Ishvara is that other bird. The Ishvara is also inside you only. But then we are not aware of it because we are Jiva, the smaller bird, and we are not paying attention. And we are getting distracted by Maya. And we are looking the other way. So that is all self-realization is. Self-realization just means understanding this and understanding that all we have to do is turn towards that other bird, which is right in the same tree. And when we do that, when we get a glimpse of that other bird, we get self-realization. Yeah, so it's a very beautiful concept. Yeah. So I can share the notes, the detailed notes also. So the scriptures, they emphasize that Bhagavan is the creator and he is the upholder of all the laws of nature, whereas the individual soul is subject to all those laws. So the individual soul is limited. So the individual soul is bound by the laws. For example, we spoke about Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, so many different bodies. The soul has to follow those laws. There is no escape. Like when physical body is dead, the subtle body is still there. And the soul is still bound by that. That is where your sanskaras are going to travel from body to body. And there is no escape. The soul has to, it's bound. But the super soul is not bound by any such law. Ishvara. Because Ishvara is the creator of all of that. That is why Shri Krishna will say later on in Bhagavad Gita that I am in everything, but I am still not impacted by anything. Very, very beautiful and profound concept. Okay. So furthermore, Bhagavan, he possesses, this is one thing we will again go into depth a little later also, but one more difference between, because it's very fashionable, if you misunderstand Advaita philosophy, it's very fashionable to say that I am God. That is what Advaita, but that is only partially true. That is not what. So when we say, even when we say Aham Brahmasmi, we are not saying I am God. We are saying I realize the God within me. It's a slightly different truth. Okay, so we need to understand that that God, that super soul will possess complete knowledge. The super soul has omniscience, as mentioned in various scriptures. In contrast, the individual soul is limited and it lacks complete understanding even in a single subject area. So we just have to understand that our soul is a spark of the divine, and then we should have also the humility that it is very limited. So we should maintain that humility, and eventually we need to aim to merge back into the super soul. That is what we should understand from all of this. So I hope all this is making sense. We will revisit all these topics again later in the Bhagavad Gita. But right now we are laying the foundation for Jnana Yoga, which will be used to give a strong direction to Karma Yoga. That is what Krishna will now start talking about from the next few verses. So I hope this all makes sense. Hare Krishna. Thank you once again for all your support, associations. I'll open the floor. If you have any comments or questions, feel free.
I just want to ask you one thing, Krishna. This is like a Jivatma Paramatma. You are telling the Ishvara and the bird, no? That is the one. Is it that a relation?
Yes.
Jivatma and Paramatma. Okay.
Yes. The same thing. So here we call it as Jiva and Ishvara. It's the Jivatma Paramatma. It's the same concept. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Today's topic was really profound. Amazing topic. The starting was really good.
Thank you. I think every
you made it really easy to understand.
The example you gave is very amazing.
Yeah.
I am Jiva. So many things are studying. It's not coming to the enlighten me for me. And today you said just the two birds sitting on the tree, and then one is the Ishvara, and then it's very brilliant.
Yeah. You made it so easy to understand.
Thank you. I appreciate your kindness. Of course, but I'm also more like it's not, most of it is not my original. It's from the Upanishads and Vedas. I'm just trying to simplify it for you, but the actual knowledge has already been given by many great seers and sages. So, Smita, Subhan.
Actually, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Actually, what helped me more is the thought that when we are past asleep, where's the consciousness? So that is how probably what is me. So whether we are a part of the Brahma or we are a Brahma, that confusion was always there. Aham Brahmasmi, me, I am the God. So why I am the God? I am a part of a God. So this is, we've heard it many times, but now it is kind of gone inside in a correct way.
Well, happy to hear that. Thank you. Thank you.
While hearing you, a question was again and again coming. Who am I? Why I am here? Why everything is coming in front of me? Do I have any connection? It's like there are a lot of questions coming, going.
Yeah. So in fact, it's, I would like to joke about it, but it's true with me at least. The more I try to progress the spiritual path, the more I try to enlighten myself in spiritual wisdom, the more difficult it becomes for me to talk about myself. Because when somebody asks me a question which is almost saying, who are you? That makes me very philosophical. Because one of the first interview questions is, can you tell me about yourself? And I told them, that has now become the most difficult question for me. Everything else is so easy because I've been in the industry for so many years. Ask me how anything works, project management, ask me security, ask me cloud, doesn't matter. But the moment somebody says, tell me about yourself, I have to smile and say, I'm sorry, that's the most difficult question. Where do I start? What do you want to know? So who am I, Ekansh? That is probably the biggest question. If we can answer that question, we get enlightenment. That is where the example I was trying to give you is, we spoke about this, maybe you were absent, but Ramana Maharishi is a very great saint. And he has written a book called Nan Yar in Tamil, which means who am I? And he gives a very simple experiment. So he says, just close your eyes, meditate, calm yourself, and then imagine that you have lost your legs. It's very easy to imagine that you lost your legs. And then he will ask you, now ask yourself, am I still Ekansh? Your answer is going to be yes. Now next you imagine you lost your hands. Are you still Ekansh? Yes. So he will say, keep negating like that, every part of your body. And the answer will always come back as yes. Then you ask yourself, then who am I? If I'm not my hand, if I'm not my leg, if I'm not my ears, if I'm not my nose, then who am I? So that requires that introspection. If you introspect in this way, by negation, you will at least get the conviction that you are something more than your body. That is the beginning.
Eternal soul.
Yeah, you have to believe that. You have to at least realize that. The first step is realizing you are not the body. Then the next step is, then what am I? That is deeper. But at least you have to start with this acknowledgement that I am not the body. As long as you are attached to this body, because there are so many people, there are so many cultures which teach that you are the body. When the body is gone, you are gone. That is what there are some belief systems in the world. And Ramana Maharishi very beautifully dispels that whole concept by saying, okay, do this negation. Because you just said that if my leg is gone, it is still not impacting my wholeness, right? I'm still Ekansh. So in other words, how can you be the body then, right? And the example I gave you right at the beginning, where I said your cells in the body
are not the same.
They're not the same. This was Deepak Chopra's example actually. Deepak Chopra is a very great spiritualist. You can read about him. And he's one of the sharpest medical brains in the world. And he's also a spiritualist. I attended his lecture almost 20 years ago. And that was one of the most profound lectures I ever attended. He was trying to explain about this consciousness. And he said, I'm a medical guy, so I will explain in medical terms. And then he said, he gave a timeline for every cell in your body. How long does your skin take to regenerate? How long does your bones take to regenerate? So on and so forth. And he said, by the time you are like, older, each and every cell of your body is not the same. So it is like coming in with one suitcase and going out with another suitcase and saying that they are both the same. Nobody will accept that, right? You come in with a... Yes.
It is also like when we are in school, we write a essay, myself. So I have two hands, two eyes. So that is what. And when we are a teenager, probably what? Myself changes. And when we probably have a partner, it changes. Children, it changes. What work we do. So there are so many layers that we go on adding to myself. Is how I look at it. So, but again, those layers may or may not be relevant. So who I am is probably what Guruji said correctly, that it's in a physical terms, or your identity as if your name and your work is kind of very easy. But who I am definitely is a difficult question.
It's probably the final question you need to answer. If you answer who am I, you have got self-realization. Then we will call you Swamini Smita. So that's the whole point. But it starts with humility. Why we say it starts with humility? The humility to accept that I am not the body. It takes humility. Because we are so proud of it. We spend hours combing our hair and shaving and, putting makeup, and we are so strongly identified, and suddenly somebody comes and says, that's not you. So it takes humility to accept it and let go and say that, okay, that's not me. And then the journey begins. So.
Yeah. but still it is very deep concept. Now people will think that we have not to take care of body because we are not the body, but still you have to take care of the body to self-realize yourself, right? If I stop eating, next day I'm like, I can't meditate, I can't do anything because my focus is zero.
That's a very selfish way to look at it, right? I mean, the moment you say it is not mine, then you don't want to take care of it. That's
how today people think, like in world, that how they think.
It's an instrument. So the way Vedanta explains it is, this body is an instrument. And there are some parts of scriptures that say the body is a temple, but it's the same thing. It's an instrument. And Krishna himself said that it's only through this instrument, it's only through this human body that you can achieve self-realization. So that instrument is important. But the point is, don't identify with the instrument. That is what we say when we say you are not the body. You have to take care of the instrument, but you can't identify with the instrument. You cannot say, I am the instrument. You know, it is like you're sitting in a car and the car is supposed to take you someplace, but you cannot say, I am the car. That never happens, right?
Yeah.
That is all we are saying. You are not the body.
Don't get attached to your body. That's what.
Don't get attached to your body. Don't identify with your body. Take care of it. Know that it is an instrument. It has to be kept clean. It has to be kept pure. And the purpose of the body is to help me, realize the Supreme. That's the whole part. So, thank you so much. It was a very nice, intense session. So, I appreciate everybody's feedback, inputs.
In Tamil, they used to say, Matram onre nilayanadu, which is a permanent, means the change is the permanent one. Everything. So, even mind, everything will get you. So, change is the Matram onre nilayanadu.
Change is the only constant. So, why is, have you given a thought why is the world built like that? Why is it? Have you given it a thought? It's very simple, actually. Because if you look at the human nature, the entire world is based on dualities. Correct?
Yeah.
You cannot explain light unless you have seen darkness. You cannot explain cold unless you have seen heat. So how can you explain or how can you understand the never-changing if you have not experienced the ever-changing? So this world is designed in such a way that everything is always changing. Only then can you perceive that which is never changing. So that is the purpose. And so there's so much we can talk about. It's a lot of very interesting topic for sure. Anyways, I don't want to keep you here for too long. Thank you all. I know. Hare Krishna. See you next week. And I need volunteer for the next week's session. You can volunteer through. Okay, Ekansh has raised his hand. Excellent. Thank you, Ekansh. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.